Okay, all right. Education was a key item in the governor's speech as well, specifically talking about third grade literacy and getting funding for early childhood programs that set kids up for success.
We need to put a much stronger focus on what I describe as prenatal through third grade. P3. One of the important metrics in someone's life of the river of opportunity is the ability to be proficient reading by third grade. How have we done? We were at 63% in 2010, we're at 70% today, about a 10% improvement. We can't be proud of that, folks. 70% doesn't cut it.
All right, talking a lot about literacy in third grade, also putting a lot of resources prenatal through third grade in those key areas, Nolan.
That's a good idea. I mean, you want to deal with the problem as early as you can and get kids caught up as quickly as you can, because it's a lot harder to catch up in 6th grade or 9th grade, and impossible after that. There's a little bit of a fight in the legislature, and we'll see how that works out, about how to enforce this. So, there are a lot of states that won't pass a kid until they reach 3rd grade. So there's holding back, and these kids don't get to move from 3rd grade to 4th grade, and there's a lot of debate on whether that does more harm than good.
What didn't we hear come from the governor when it came to education at this State of the State, Stephen?
Well, I mean, I still believe that we've got to have a bigger conversation about funding, the way we fund education. There's school districts all over the state that the current funding formula does not really work for anymore. Urban districts in particular are going to need something different. We also didn't hear that much about Detroit, and I think that may be because he's just not ready to come up with what the solution is yet. But I think there was some anticipation that we might hear more about where he's headed or what he's thinking about the future there. I think that also could be a model for what you do in some of these other urban districts that are headed the same place that Detroit is now. But he didn't, he sort of drive-by talked about Detroit in that speech.
Yeah, he talked about all kids should be achieving, and we want more for our kids. It was a little vague, Nolan. I was expecting a little bit more.
I don't think he knows what he's going to do in Detroit, and I don't think anybody knows what you can do in that district. The emergency management has not erased the deficit. It's cut it, but it's not erased it. Academic performance has improved somewhat. Enrollment has stabilized a bit, but still nowhere near where it should be. And so his choice was to reappoint an emergency manager, appoint a new emergency manager, or turn it back to the school board. And I don't think anybody wants that school board to take over again. So what's the governing model look like? You can't keep it under emergency manager forever.
All right, let's do what's the big takeaway from the State of the State? So now we've heard what the governor would like to do over this next year or so. How does that line up with what this new legislature perhaps wants to do, Stephen?
Well, I think that's the big question. You've got a legislature that's talking about all kinds of different things that they want to do, mostly in the sort of imagined moral crisis area of government that we see coming from the very far right. I mean, the Tea Party response to the governor's speech was just one of the most outlandish and bizarre rants I'd seen in a long time. These are the folks who have a lot of control in that legislature, and are they going to focus on what they want to do, or are they going to do what he wants to do? He, I think, laid out a very clear agenda that they should be behind anyway. But they may give him some trouble.
What do you think, Nolan?
Well, the new leadership in the House and the Senate seem to be reasonable. I mean, they're working with the governor on this roads deal, where I would have anticipated they would have said, "Oh no, it's a tax hike. We're not going to get behind it." So a lot depends on the quality of the leaders. They can keep a lot of stuff tamped down, not let it get out and become a distraction. So if he develops a good relationship with legislative leaders, I think it'll be okay.
All right, so when do we get the budget? February 10th,
Next
somewhere
month,
around
right?
there?
A couple of weeks.
Okay, so we'll be able to see where we go from there. All right.